200 section, proceed down the stairs to the main arena concourse and then to the exit nearest you. We appreciate your attention to our evacuation procedures. Enjoy your visit to the CFP Arena.
The American Athletic Conference and UCF encourages and promotes good sportsmanship.
The University of Central Florida requests your cooperation
by supporting the participants and officials in a positive manner.
Profanity, racial, and sexist comments
or other intimidating actions
directed at coaches, officials, student athletes, or other team representatives
will not be tolerated
and are grounds for removal
from CFP Arena.
Go nuts! Charlie Goma.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CFE Arena for tonight's matchup featuring the visitors, the Tulane Green Wave, and your UCF Knights. We ask if you would at this time, please rise and remove your caps as we honor America with our national anthem presented by the Jammin' Knights.
We welcome you on this Wednesday evening to Orlando as our American Digital Network matchup features the Green Wave of Tulane against the home squad Knights of UCF. A big victory on the line tonight here in the American as we welcome you in. Lincoln Rose along with Coach Angela Beck. And well, here's two teams right now. UCF for the first time in program history got off to a 3-0 starting conference, but all of a sudden a couple of top 25 roadblocks that they're looking to bounce back from here tonight at home. Across the way, of course, Lisa Stockton's Tulane Green Wave, one of the more consistent programs in this conference. They've made the postseason, either the NCAA tournament or the WNIT every year dating back to 2010.
Well, UCF came off a couple losses to two of the top teams in the conference, so you know, I guess you can call them good losses. On the other hand, Tulane had two home losses against Wichita and Houston, which were the bottom tier. Look for Coach Stockton's team to be ready, because if history speaks for itself, she's not gonna let these kids stop working. Let's take a look at what you think Coach Stockton's team needs to do to get the victory here tonight. Well, the Green Wave, the keys to the game are they have to limit their turnovers. They've had a little turnover bug here in the last few games, and then they're going to have to rebound with a very physical UCF team. On the opposite side of things, how does Coach Abe's program get back on track? Well, you know, they've been lighting fire from the three-point range, especially Colby Morgan, so they got to defend against the threes and then pressure them 94 feet because their physicality is very difficult to handle. Well, when you talk about Tulane and a player that has helped define this program for the past 4 years now, they did not have to go far from their own backyard. The New Orleans native Colby Morgan now in her senior campaign. Well, special player both on and off the court, an amazing team member for the team, and 2,000 point score, only 5 in the history of the Green Wave to score 2,000 points. That gives me chills. Morgan could finish this year as the top all-time scorer in Green Wave program history. Across the way, Aaliyah Gregory right now sits number 6 all-time for UCF in points. Well, Aaliyah Gregory's kind of been a little bit on and off. You know, a lot of pressure on her because she doesn't have as much around her. So she's getting 12 points a game, and she's you know, she's really trying to up her tempo and try to get a few more points. A midweek matchup in the American. Last year, the Knights knocked off the Green Wave in the conference tournament. Tulane looking to repay the favor with a victory here this evening.
When it comes to learning at Tulane University, there are no boundaries. Architects and scientists in New Orleans, doctors and public health experts in Africa, history and language scholars in Latin America, legal students and professors in Europe, business students in Asia. Tulaneans are all over the globe, and the world is their oyster. We've got that, and a lot more, right here at Tulane University.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it.
Back in Orlando, always great student support, including from the pep band and, of course, the student section, the Nightmare, on hand here at CFE Arena. We take a look at our starting lineup for both Lisa Stockton here on the road tonight, as well as second-year head coach of the Knights, Katie Abrahamson Henderson, Coach Abe. You look at the lineup for Tulane as, again, some familiar names. Obviously, Colby Morgan, you talk about an individual coming off a 26-point performance despite the loss the other night, looking to bounce back with this team. The key is, can the other four help pick up the slack here in the early minutes?
Well, the matchup I really like is looking at Morgan and Gregory, two first-team selections. Morgan's been outstanding on the rebounds, points per game, three-point percentages, everything she's done. Gregory, 12 points, not as much. She's going to have to pick it up a little more to make that first-team all-conference bid.
The difference is Gregory has individuals like KK Wright and Zykia Saunders also averaging double figures per matchup. Well, before opening tip, let's check in for the first time today with the third member of our crew, checking in with Eric Lopez. Eric?
Well, Lincoln, the message from both teams is toughness and rebounding. UCF felt that in the last game against USF, they weren't tough enough in their loss against USF, and they want to get back to being tough and rebounding the glass. For Tulane, they look back to last season when they lost twice to UCF, and one of the reasons they felt that they lost to them, especially in the conference tournament, is because UCF was tougher getting the 50-50 balls and rebounding. The last four meetings between these two teams, the team that has won the rebounding battle has gone on to win the game. Back to you, Lincoln.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, last year UCF won each of the two meetings, so Coach Abe is undefeated against Tulane. Before that, Tulane had a 6-game winning streak against these Golden Knights. UCF has actually never beaten Tulane here in Orlando, of all notes. Again, they met in New Orleans regular season last year and then would play in the conference tournament up in Connecticut. We're underway. Kaba will win the opening tip. The freshman sends it back to KK Wright. So here is a Knights team. As Eric noted, they're trying to bounce back from that loss to USF. Coach Abe actually was probably more pleased with the Knights' performance against number 1 UConn. Said they came out fighting in that first half and gave it their all, while USF was able to jump out early in part. That was an angry USF squad that remembered losing to UCF in Tampa a year ago.
Well, USF is very difficult to play at their home site. So the fact that I give it to her, the fact that UCF thought they could go in and actually, get a win, because it's very tough to win there. Also, Gregory had an outstanding performance in that game last year. So, it's if you lose to those two guys, it's okay. You can build on it. I'm sure she learned a lot about her squad.
Our ADN crew was here in Orlando earlier this month when UCF was able to take care of newcomer Wichita State. Wichita State was struggling at the time. Since then has not lost. They've won 3 in a row. I really think the Knights are going to grow to appreciate that victory more and more as this season continues to progress. Of course, you and I saw Wichita State last night with a victory over SMU up in Kansas.
Well, the Knights made the Wichita State look pretty bad that night, and that's an indication of what they can do to some of the middle of the pack. I think they'll be in the upper tier of this conference.
KK Wright with the basketball at the moment. Inside to Kaba, the freshman gets position and punctuation.
Well, that was a nice little high-low dish by KK Wright.
A modest pressure here on Tulane, easily able to work it across the timeline. And a kick ball. Shot clock will stay right where it is.
It'll be interesting how they go and shadow that zone and try to find, Colby Morgan, because Morgan is shooting so well from three-point range this year at 41%.
Keilu Manu Idirungi is your point guard this year for the Green Wave, the sophomore out of New Zealand. As the ball right now with Colby Morgan, the New Orleans native, who, if she continues this pace, averaging 22 points a ball game, she'll become Tulane's all-time leading scorer either in the season finale against SMU in New Orleans or perhaps in the conference tournament. You see Lisa Stockton, all she has done in her 24 years is take Tulane to 11 NCAA tournaments and 7 WNITs.
Well, she's a postseason guru. She goes to the postseason. She got 3 deep in the NWIT last year. and she has high expectations. Colby Morgan could care less probably about being the #1 scorer, even though later on in her life she'd love it, but right now she wants to have her team win.
Knights trying to grow their early advantage. A turnover, though, the other way with Cheatham. Cheatham waits for help, gets the help, dishes to Schulte, but Schulte can't finish. So UCF out to the early 2-0 advantage, looking to double that advantage, able to drop it through. Aaliyah Gregory, last year first team all-conference, high expectations for the native of Tampa, Florida in this her senior campaign.
That was a nice stroke. It's good getting her active early to try to get her some good looks, and that was a nice look out of the corner.
And a triple will be just off the mark out of the right hand of Morgan. Morgan, a 41% shooter from beyond the arc. Eclipsed 2,000 points for her career in that victory against Wichita State the other night. Morgan right now sits number 3 all-time, but with it by early next month should become number 2. There is Coach Abe. Her first year with UCF, talk about a turnaround under her watch. She inherited a roster and was able to put it together to enough make it into the second round of the WNIT. High expectations this year. The problem is right now she's without 2 of her top post players returning, Fifi Endur and Tolu Omokore.
Yeah, losing those 2 in the middle of the year or beginning of the year really hurt her. I do admire how she's put these guys together and, you know, instill confidence in some of these role players who are now taking a more active role in their offense.
It's forced players like Kayla Thigpen to try to adapt moving into the post where they're lacking some size. And right now Tulane lacking some points. Will stop and pop, and the 15-footer is good for, again, the Knights and Zykeia Saunders. Saunders played for Coach Abe at Albany for 3 years, transferred last year, had to sit out under NCAA rules, was an extra coach basically in the locker room who understood Coach Abe's philosophy, obviously. She is shining this year, has become more of a scorer than she ever was at Albany.
Well, and it looks like she's got a nice little jump shot. I mean, she's got a pure shot, and she's feeling very confident.
She has 7 3-pointers this year. It's a career-high 7 3-pointers for her. Speaking of the triple, Tulane finally on the board. That one looked good out of the hand of the sophomore, Manu Idirangi.
They're going to fire the 3 all afternoon here. They take more 3s than most teams, and they have a pretty good percentage.
See Lisa Stockton coaching up the defense.
Both teams pretty happy to be in a zone.
They find the open shooter, a little too open, off the mark from Gregory. And trying to beat the buzzer, it'll be a shot clock violation, turnover back over to Tulane. Well, it's a Tulane team that Coach Stockton will point out did not start with enough urgency against Wichita State, despite the fact that Morgan had 15 first-half points, 26 points for the ball game. Colby Morgan now the NCAA's number 7 active career scorer. One of the best in the country. The problem is, her coach will point out, too many of her teammates will just stop and watch the show.
Exactly.
And on the opposite end, you've got free throws coming up for Kaba. Her Knights lead 6-3 here early on in the American with 4:49 to go in the opening quarter. Watching women's basketball here on the American Digital Network. Back to Orlando in a bit.
$7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
From the American. Don't
miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets March 3rd to the 6th. Call the Mohegan Sun Arena or visit us online to purchase tickets today.
Take a look at where the conference standings are coming into tonight. USF, UConn, obviously a couple of top 25 programs at the top of your standings. Ronald Huey's Houston Cougars able to bounce back from a tough matchup with UConn the other night. And, of course, UCF is right there in the hunt. They won their first 3. They've dropped their last 2 against both the Huskies as well as the Bulls. So Kaba shoots her free throws. It's 7-3 now with UCF taking its lead back to 4.
Back to stretching that defense 94 feet. Focusing on them, just handling, making good passes, and that was an inadvertent pass.
Knights patient, waiting for something to develop. Offensive rebound, and this will simply be out of bounds. A nice job by Jamisha Paul to haul that one in, the junior from Pompano Beach here in Florida, giving them about 3 points a ball game.
Man, is that first media timeout?
So UCF will have the basketball. A 7-3 advantage here, still midway through the opening quarter.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenstal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Take a look at the games coming up here on the American Digital Network. Our ADN crew doesn't have to go very far. Stick around through Saturday as SMU will be in town, Mustangs and Knights. Then we'll head back over to Dallas when Cincinnati ventures into the Metroplex. As we'll see UCF again at the end of January, taking on the Golden Hurricane in Tulsa. A fun schedule here this year on ADN. A lot of talented teams, and frankly, you look at that schedule, it's hard to circle any favorites going in those matchups. Great deal of parity this year.
Like I said, you need to win your home games. And Tulane's dug a little bit of a hole, losing two to pretty much the lower tier teams with Wichita and Houston is what preseason we picked, that the coaches picked. But it's early enough. Coach Stockton feels that they can be in the top half, and that's their goal. Obviously, UCF thinks that they're one of the top 3-4 teams in the league.
Having seen now Wichita State and Houston get several games under their belt, I think now we're going to be surprised if they wind up in that lower tier.
Well, definitely. I haven't been able to see in person Houston, but on film, they look good. They've had several players emerge. And when you have players emerge and they expect 27-30 a game, then your job as a coach is pretty easy if you got a player that thinks they can get 25 points.
Here's a UCF team. You look at their schedule this year. It features 12 opponents that were either in the NCAA or WNIT tournaments last year. Coach Abe really wanted to test them, force them to bond early, and it paid off with the first ever 3-0 start in conference play since joining the American. And Coach Abe, head coach at 3 different schools over 12 years. Has some of her former players now on her staff as coaches. And a nice turnaround look. And ultimately the hometown role literally for Nyla Schuler right here from Orlando's Edgewater High School, the 4th-year junior.
Their offense is very efficient. They make crisp passes, don't hesitate in their shot selection, and usually get pretty good results.
See some of the early numbers. And Schuler, you can imagine she's practiced that a few times on this floor.
Well, she not only shoots the ball well, but she rebounds it well, and that's why she's out there.
Tulane's only score so far a 3-pointer. Otherwise, they've struggled. And that one well off the mark from Morgan, just trying to beat the shot clock.
Yeah, this defense is causing them early problems because they're really physically matching up. It's not just a zone that just hangs out. It's a matchup. When you catch, I'm in your territory. You know, we just say kind of get up near their shorts and body them up, and they're bodying them up pretty good. So that was a really good defensive stop by them.
UCF did so well under the first year of Coach Abe in Orlando, in part because the leaders returning for the team bought in so quickly. Obviously, Kaba not on the team a year ago, but the freshman's going to be a big part of the next 4 years for Coach Abe. This year, all of the returning players voluntarily stuck around during the summer to continue to work out together. Whipped inside, good position. Free throws coming up after the shot itself would not fall for Meredith Schulte.
Well, if Morgan can't get that shot outside, she's gonna get the pass inside. So that was a great look. Yeah, I think that probably they're gonna have to move Morgan around a little bit. She's kind of standing up at the top of the key, and she's pretty easy to guard because she's a little bit out of range. So I think if I was a coach, I might try to run her on the baseline and try to get her moving a little bit so they have to watch where she's coming.
Schulte's been a 65% free throw shooter. She's one of 3 players really battling to be the number 2 scorer behind teammate Colby Morgan this year. You've got 3 members of the Green Wave averaging right around 8.5 points a night.
She's really elevated her game in the offseason.
How about the defense? Morgan helping tie things up, and the possession arrow sends it back over to Tulane with the turnover.
Well, I really like that adjustment right there. I like that half-court trap that she just called. I really want them to be more aggressive. When you're on somebody else's home court, you've really got to pull out all the stops.
Morgan drives over 2 nights. A little weak side putback won't fall for Schulte. And UCF now with the numbers, 3-on-1. And just holding her ground was Manuela Rungi. So the 3-on-1 advantage will not lead to points this trip down.
Well, that was good defense by Manu inside. But I will say that UCF is getting their transition game going. That's about 3 or 4 that they've actually beat most of the other team down the floor. So they need to get back and make these shots difficult.
Shot clock down to 8. Morgan, her first triple of the night, second for the Green Wave.
Well, the assistant coach that had the scouting report on the bench right there called that play out because Morgan stepped out and no one guarded her. And she knew that was happening, so too bad she can't play.
So Tulane is back within 3 points here early on after a slow start on the road in Orlando. With 1:59 to go, Lincoln Rose Angela back with you here on the American Digital Network. Eric Lopez on the sidelines as Morgan connecting on her most recent effort as Tulane making a third of their triples here this evening early on. Kaba just slices right through that defense. A great recognition by her teammate to find, again, the talented Masani Kaba.
One of the things they're doing really effectively is to dribble, penetrate in the middle and the baseline and get some easy dishes in.
And a nice look on the wing, just won't fall. And Kaba with the defensive board this time. Long 2 from the wing, no. Kaba with one arm being held back, able to haul that in. Masani Kaba from Massachusetts landed on the radar of Coach Abe back when she was at Albany. Coach realized that she had to have Kaba, whether it be at Albany or now here at UCF. And after all that, second chance points for the Knights, courtesy of Kayla Thigpen.
Getting into the interior of that zone, that 2-3 zone, right in the heart of it. Every single time down, they've really got some good penetration.
Thigpen wearing that number 11 is more natural as a guard, but on defense they ask her to post up with the injuries to a couple of post players, and I think they have her for a foul this time. No, an offensive push-off.
3 seconds, nice ball.
And they'll actually make it officially a 3-second call against Tulane. Lisa Stockton will make the adjustment.
Lisa Stockton likes to use a combination of a lot of types of defenses. She likes to run some zone press, not man-to-man, and then run a couple different zone options. So you look for her to do 2 or 3 things here tonight to keep them off tilter.
Well, one thing you've been able to count on for Tulane 3 of the last 4 games, winning that rebounding battle. That is the #1 emphasis in the recent practices from Coach Stockton. You can't always control whether your shots are falling, but you can control how many opportunities you get throughout an evening.
That was a nice little set right there. They ran a cross screen for Kaba in the zone. And a lot of people don't screen a zone, but this was an excellent screening opportunity by UCF in the interior to get Kaba open.
Mossany now 2 of 3 at the free throw line early on, the only Knight to step up to the charity stripe this evening. Now 3 of 4 for Kaba, who's made 22 of her 29 career free throws at UCF.
Well, she's going to be a player of the future. People are talking about her, and you know, she's long and lengthy, and she has a nice soft touch on her shot too.
Kayla Anderson, your backup point guard, is in for Tulane. Anderson, just a freshman now to Kenner, Louisiana. And almost a turnover, but recovered by Harlan Wyatt, the Atlanta native. Ball stripped away. Morgan gets it back. No change in the clock, obviously. It's counting down, and that'll do it. You know, the red light went off a little late. They're going to review whether or not to count the bucket. At the moment, it is 17-8 with UCF out ahead by 9. That could be trimmed to 17-10 after they review that last shot, whether it's in time. We step aside. When we come back, quarter number 2. UCF out in front, looking to improve to 4-2 in conference play by the end of the night.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
Power. Power.
Power for life.
When it comes to learning at Tulane University, there are no boundaries. Architects and scientists in New Orleans, doctors and public health experts in Africa, history and language scholars in Latin America, legal students and professors in Europe, business students in Asia. Tulanians are all over the globe, and the world is their oyster. We've got that, and a lot more, right here at Tulane University.
People say we're big. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
Well, after the review, the shot was off in time, so 2 more points for the Green Wave. They trail by 7 heading into the second quarter. Check back in courtside with Eric Lopez.
By the World Health Organization and the National Space Biomedical Research. And we're going to celebrate UCF Health.
Well, Lincoln, it's a bit of a homecoming for Madison Wells. She's originally from New Orleans, but moved to Winter Springs after Hurricane Katrina. Played her high school ball in Winter Haven, which is about 30 to 40 minutes away from here at UCF campus. But she decided to go back to original home of New Orleans, and now as a sophomore, really having success, on schedule to graduate in 2 years. But this is her first trip playing here in Orlando against UCF. So a bit of a unique homecoming for Madison Wells, who has 2 homes that she for her. Back to you, Lincoln.
Yeah, Madison's a really intelligent young lady, a sophomore now, who frankly, when she was looking at schools, was more interested in the academic side. And if she happened to be able to play basketball, so be it. The best of both worlds now back at Tulane. Ball stripped away. We'll have another tie-up early on here in the second quarter. Tulane, well, you know, we boast Lisa Stockton's record in the win-loss column, but here's a group that for 8 straight years now has had a team GPA of 3.0 or higher. As a coach, you love that when you want to implement something new. So often that classroom intelligence translates to a basketball IQ as well.
Absolutely, and it's a top 60 university, so that means it's a high academic institution, and she's only one, or there's only a few teams that have gone to 11 postseasons in a top 60 university, so that takes a lot for her to give them the time, allow them to, you know, have architectural, you know, studies. I mean, she's let them go after some things that a lot of college coaches won't let them do because they have to spend a lot of time on the court.
It's a good point. That 3.0 GPA is not just majoring in anything. These are some intellectual pursuits that we learned some of these individuals are pursuing. Free throws coming up here. Colby Morgan at the line, a 68% shooter this year from the charity stripe. And here's Morgan, now a senior, but she's already always seemed like a senior. So mature as a freshman when she showed up. The New Orleans native out of John Curtis Christian Academy. And she's able to make the most of it.
She's a smooth customer. You know, she just makes it happen in so many different ways in an effortless way. A lot of people take a lot of effort, and she doesn't.
Well, I want to step back something I said earlier. They did not count the bucket at the end of the opening quarter. Those 2 free throws now make it 17-10. And we'll stay on this end of the floor.
UCF's running a little high-low step-out. They're bringing someone down the baseline into the step-out corner, which a lot of defenses don't cover. And I like their movement because it's tough. See how they're just coming from behind? Then they're working the high-low and then going back behind and getting that rebounding position.
Settling for a long 2. Instead, the offensive rebound from Saunders. Saunders averaging about 5 boards a ball game. They missed her when she was out for 5 games earlier this year. She's been the one they've leaned on to basically replace Zykira Lewis, who graduated last season as their number 2 scorer. Feed inside, a little power dribble and turn off the glass for Harlan Wyatt.
Wyatt did both ends that time. She defended Kaba really well, stayed down, and then ran the floor and scored.
Wyatt's among those for Tulane, averaging a little over 8 points a ball game.
Little baseline runner.
And Saunders will throw one up, won't fall. A couple of free throws coming up again for the first-year Knight. First year, at least, that she's eligible to step on the court after transferring from Albany. She's a 64% free throw shooter, as Kayla Anderson, the freshman, called for the foul.
She's had some really nice games for them, really getting in a rhythm.
I noted earlier that Coach Abe did not bring her to UCF to necessarily be a scorer. It is something that she has really challenged herself to become here this year. Her efforts on the boards and hustle in general was going to be an asset to this program.
Well, I think knowing her system, knowing what she wants, already being around her for a year before everyone got here, gives her that, you know, leverage that she needs to be good. This is an aggressive defense. They're not allowing just every pass to be made. They're shadowing in the passing lane. They're pressuring them. They're digging down.
Yeah, you cannot take for granted any pass against this defense. You see there, UCF again denies the entry and will win the ball back.
Defense wins games, rebounding wins championships, and these guys are playing some defense.
On the wing with KK Wright. Oh, good baseline drive. Winds up in the lap of Schuler, just can't finish.
I like their temperament. I like their rhythm right there. They missed that shot, but, you know, that's a crib. That's an easy shot, and that's good execution.
It's a Tulane team talking to Coach Lisa Stockton yesterday, asking how can they take their next steps forward, and she just said, look, making their own confidence, growing within themselves, believing each and every outing. And how about that defensive effort? Tatiana Lofton rejects it.
Well, it's a good thing she did because there's not that many people back, and she just gets all ball. Good defense.
How about the middle blocker moves with the two hands right there as if she was at the net? And that's going to be a player control foul on Nyla Schuler before the ball is inbounded.
Well, that's a nice little tactic there to use by Schulte. You know, just kind of step in your way while you're trying to make a cut and then fall out of it. And that's called a fake charge, but it works.
I try to tell my credit card company all the time about those fake charges.
Exactly.
Ball whipped in, 2-on-1. Underneath, and Tulane just can't execute. Won't fall for Crookshank. UCF catches a break, now the other way. And a little pull-up won't go. Who wanted it more? Nobody. More so than Kayla Thigpen underneath.
Well, no wonder Coach has her playing the post because she's got some energy. She's got some ups.
Again, more naturally a guard. Whipped into Kaba, and she feels right at home there in the post.
Well, I like that Coach Abe is not going to settle for just some outside shooting. She wants to penetrate the zone and get quality shots, and she really has almost every possession.
Tulane down by 9.
Another passing lane jumped.
And just a little too far underneath the basket was Saunders when she slammed on the brakes.
Got a little bit too deep, but I'll give her credit for not throwing it up there and missing it.
You're looking at Aaliyah Gregory coming back on. And that's plan A every time, right into the paint to Thigpen. She's capable of a big night anytime she steps on the court, though, just averaging 3.5 points a ball game. Thigpen with the rebound.
UCF just wants to cause some havoc and maybe make Tulane play a little quicker than they want to, and it's working.
And the geometry just off for Wright. "14-footer, thought about it, got her own rebound, hauled in by Madison Wells.
What a shot right there with a hand in her face. That was a no-looker.
Again, Morgan is averaging 22 points a ball game. She's going to find success on some of those. And this will stay on this end. Lisa Stockton will make a couple of substitutions. We'll see Madu Inirungi as well as Lofton come back on for Tulane. But it's UCF with a 9-point advantage here midway through the second quarter at home in Orlando.
We are underway from the American.
Don't miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets March 3rd to the 6th. Call the Mohegan Sun Arena or visit us online to purchase tickets today.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Take a look at other events coming up. The Olympic Sports Championships here on the American Digital Network. It'll all begin next month with swimming and diving up in Dallas, hosted by SMU. over in Birmingham with the indoor track and field, of course, a great facility over there at the Crossplex. Women's golf will get us going in April, as well as men's and women's tennis and men's golf. A busy time of year before summer comes around to crown a lot more champions in the American. Again, all of those events you see right there, right here, available on the American Digital Network. Glad to have you with us tonight in Orlando. Lincoln Rose, Angela Beck, Eric Lopez with you. Tulane making the trek over. And while almost the entire country is under this winter blast, the peninsula of Florida, for the most part, unscathed. About 40 degrees warmer here tonight than it was in Wichita last night for our broadcast over on the campus of those Shockers.
Well, that makes it nice for Coach Abe when she's recruiting there to her nice little city. But yeah, in the gym, I always say, you know, I was at Nebraska, and we always just talked about what the temperature was in the gym, and it's all the same. So anyway, this is a good game. I think, basically UCF has got to continue to do what they're doing. They're getting quality shots. They got the leader right now, Kaba, with 11 points, which means that she's not settling for a bunch of three-point shooting. She's really penetrating inside that zone, which is going to give her good results.
If Coach Abe had it her way, she would extend all of her available scholarships to palm trees.
Exactly.
She loves her view at her office and at home these days after moving from Albany to Orlando. Not quite as tall as a palm tree, but has been a great addition here for the Knights this year as a freshman. Meanwhile, Tulane still trying to find its identity according to their head coach. Talk about a mixture of newcomers. At least they have blended in well from day one with all the returning seniors and veterans on this program. So both these coaches really like the personnel they have and the character they have. Tulane just waiting for things to click. Obviously, UCF looking to bounce back tonight from a couple of top 25 matchups against UConn and USF in conference play.
Yeah, I think both teams are trying to bounce back in different ways. This would be a big win for Tulane to come on the road and make something happen, but a couple of these role players are really going to have a great night. I mean, not just an average night, but a great night, because they're not going to let Morgan do it on her own. This is too good of a team. This zone's too good, and they can't make those kind of passes. And I'd like to see them run a baseline runner. I really would.
Kaba active down low, got the steal and taking it the rest of the way. KK Wright with the finish.
Well, that's the green light on the stop and pop, that little 6-footer all night.
KK was 0 for her first 5 shots, finally on the board. And again, when you have such a balanced attack personnel-wise, you can go 0 for 5 and know that several of your other teammates can help pick up the slack. And UCF with a double-digit advantage.
And that's what I've talked about pregame, was Gregory not maybe scoring as much as what we anticipate her to score, but she does have a lot of help, like you talked about, and balanced scoring is the best way to go.
So the ball up top with the sophomore from New Zealand, former member of the youth national team there with the Kiwis. Arrived in December before her freshman year, helped her get an early head start. Offensive rebound on the weak side, the putback, an easy one from Madison Wells at 6'1", the sophomore.
That was an aggressive putback and a needed offensive board for Tulane.
Eric Lopez noted Madison Wells most recently hails from Winter Haven, Florida, but before that was in New Orleans, displaced by Katrina.
Both these teams are fighters. This is going to be a long game because there's not going to be one team give up on this one.
Zakira Saunders, 8 3-pointers this year. Again, that's the most she's ever had in any given season. And at the collegiate level, it is an element of her game that Coach Abe was not expecting.
Here's a little baseline runners. Love it.
Morgan easily with access to the baseline, just couldn't turn around and drop it through. Great feed to Kaba.
That's the transition game I've been talking about. They have got to get back. That is way too easy for them.
Masani Kaba with her 5th field goal already. Morgan.
Ooh, they got away with that one.
And Kaba will be called for the push. It'll stay with Tulane here, trailing by 14.
You can tell every time Morgan touches the ball, that whole UCF bench just gets up because they think she's going to make it.
Kaba with the foul.
That was a great way to run the floor. Ball didn't touch the ground. Hit Kaba, and Kaba did a nice soft touch finish.
13 points for Masani Kaba, the game high tonight. Just 3 fewer than Tulane has scored this opening half.
1-3-1 set.
And again, the active defense, KK Wright with the spin inside the finish. The steal, the score, and a free throw coming up for KK.
Well, that's going to make the American highlight right there. Transition bucket, little spin move, right hand finish, and one. So I think the talk at halftime is if we miss a shot, we've got to get 5 people in the paint because that's just too easy.
Mentioned she started 0 for 5. She'd made her last 2. Cornelia, better known by her friends as KK. And this will go back over to Tulane. Again, KK is out of right here in Orlando from Jones High School, the sophomore.
Well, I think it's a tough time to play both teams because UCF comes off of playing 2 of the top teams in the league and losing. You know that they've got the coach's attention. Same thing with Tulane. You know, they have a must win. There's another turnover.
Back up to Wright. And that dribble just slipped away from her. Tulane, no, they'll get a timeout before they say the tie-up. So this will stay with UCF, 11-7 on the year. Again, they started off 3-0 in conference play. First time to do so since joining the American. And the Knights trying to improve to 4-2 by the end of the evening. You're watching women's basketball tonight on the American Digital Network.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
A little over a minute to go here in this opening half. It's been all Knights offense, plenty of defense as well, creating opportunities for this UCF squad here this evening at home. Looking for their first home victory in Orlando at CFE Arena against Tulane. That was a good look. Wouldn't fall, and don't you know it, an offensive rebound for Saunders, but never a second chance opportunity. As Tulane takes it right back, and they'll call a blocking foul, and actually a shooting foul going to the line will be Morgan.
Well, nice transition. Morgan just kept it, attacked her. She just didn't get set, so Morgan got the block. Morgan's 2 of 8, 1 of 5 so far, so they've kind of kept her where she's not extremely comfortable yet, but I look for her to get comfortable because that's what she does, and she's a consistent scorer for them.
You ask Lisa Stockton, she'll tell you Colby Morgan's just as happy if she comes up with 9 assists in a ball game as she would be with 30 points to lead Tulane. Loves to get her teammates involved.
I still think they're stinging a little bit from Vorpal. You have somebody like Vorpal in the backcourt for so many years, and you know, if you're a point guard oriented coach, which, you know, I think Stockton is, she runs a lot through her point guard, she runs a lot of sets. You have to have a leader, and they're just lacking a little bit of leadership there because Morgan's having to do too much.
They'll throw it away back over to Tulane. Well, Colby Morgan was a natural fit for Tulane. We mentioned she's from New Orleans, but had a couple of brothers go through Tulane before her. And of course, her head coach in high school over there, John Curtis Christian, was a former All-American at Tulane, and Barbara Ferris, who would go on to play in the WNBA.
One of the great ones.
Just determined to get that one to the hole was Meredith Schulte. That'll do it for the opening half of play. Tulane trims it down to a deficit of a dozen. 32-20. In a moment, we'll have a chance to catch up with Coach Abe, looking for another big home victory, trying to bounce back from a couple of losses. Let's check back in with Eric, who's with Coach Abe.
Well, Coach, you got to be pleased with your defense in that first half, holding them to about 20% shooting. What's gone right for your defense?
Well, I just think we're paying attention to detail, and we're just moving really, really quick. And we got to do a better job of boxing out, though. We're not boxing out very well. And then we got to locate Colby. I mean, she's drawing fouls on us, and she's scoring, so we got to really pay attention to her in the second half.
Kaba got you some good looks in that first half. What do you want to see from her and your offense in the second half?
Yeah, I get out in transition and run. I mean, you should see she's a gazelle. She could run and get some layups for us. But if she's getting the rebound, she's not the one out. So we got to get everybody else running the floor like that.
All right, good luck, Coach, in the second half. Lincoln, back to you.
All right, thank you, Eric. Run, as well as great transition opportunities for UCF in that first half. Clicking on all cylinders midway through this one in Orlando, up by 12. We've reached halftime on ADN.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
A big save.
a clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments.
Profanities or other improper actions.
While at the game.
The American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Hope your Monday is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise. I'm Haley Outen. Let's take a look at who took home this week's league honors after standout performances on the hardwood this past week. On the men's side, Memphis guard Jeremiah Martin averaged over 28 points a game in a 2-0 week for the Tigers. He posted a career-high 31 against Tulane, scoring the most points by any Memphis player since Will Barton in 2011. Rookie of the Week honors went to Temple guard Nate Pierre-Louis. The freshman posted a career-high 23 points versus Memphis and had a career-high 7 rebounds in Temple's win at SMU. A handful of other players had impressive performances as well. Here's a look at this week's American Honor Roll. On the women's side, Wichita State forward Ranji Bassard took home this week's top honor. The senior helped the Shockers pick up their first 2 wins in the American, averaging 21 points, 9.5 boards, 3 steals, and 2.5 blocks over the week. Bassard has scored 10 or more points in all but 1 game this season. Freshman of the Week honors went to Cincinnati forward Amari Thomas. The rookie contributed 11 points to go along with 6 rebounds and 3 assists in a win at Houston on Wednesday. While on Saturday, she chipped in 14 points and 7 boards in a win over Temple. And here's a look at the performances that received recognition on this week's Conference Honor Roll. Thanks for joining us on this all-new episode of The Rise. Be sure to check back later tonight as we'll bring you an all-new episode of Mondays with Mike. College basketball analyst Mike O'Donnell will break down all of the men's basketball top headlines across the conference. Have a great week.
When it comes to learning at Tulane University, there are no boundaries. Architects and scientists in New Orleans, doctors and public health experts in Africa, history and language scholars in Latin America, legal students and professors in Europe, business students in Asia. Tulaneans are all over the globe, and the world is their oyster. We've got that, and a lot more, right here at Tulane University.
Don't miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets at the American Athletic Conference Men's Basketball Championship. All the excitement of tournament basketball starts March 8th and runs to the 11th at the Amway Center in Orlando. For tickets, call the Amway Center box office or visit theamerican.org for more information.
UCF! 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 UCF!
War on I-4 champions, American Athletic Conference champions, Peach Bowl champions, an undefeated 13-0 season, and acclaimed national championship. What's a better way to celebrate than here at Walt Disney World?
I don't think you realize how big your school is until you come to Disney World and see everybody wearing UCF.
Thousands of UCF fans lined up to watch the UCF football players, the Marching Knights, cheerleaders, athletic director Danny White, President John Hitt, and the one and only Mickey Mouse celebrate their Peach Bowl win and undefeated season.
Tremendous turnout. Just a few years back, you know, we did a similar parade after winning the Fiesta Bowl. This is bigger.
One subject recently has made headlines all over the sports world for the Knights. Their self-proclaimed national championship title.
Both of us just said, yeah, that's right, national championship, national champions.
I mean, they beat Auburn, who beat Alabama and Georgia, so that's a starting point.
You're rating us 12 and we're undefeated, beat Auburn, national champion.
Athletic director Danny White first made the claim to national champions immediately after the Peach Bowl win against Auburn.
I feel like we've earned the right to claim the national championship, and I've been surprised at how it's that narrative's kind of grown nationally. But I think it's good for the sport because I think we need to get to a better place. We need to expand the playoff and be at a place where the champion is decided on the field.
The Knights staff say that the claim raises awareness to a more just playoff system.
It's really not a fair system as we have it now. And whether it's UCF and the Knights or any other team, what we all deserve is not a specific win, but an opportunity to go out and earn a win. And I think it's hard to contend that the American Conference, UCF, don't deserve that opportunity, the opportunity to win or lose.
While the season was definitely successful for the Knights, quarterback and Peach Bowl offensive MVP Mackenzie Milton hopes to continue the winning streak into next season.
Yeah, I think it does a lot. You know, I think it boosts a sense of confidence that we can play with anybody, and I think we just want to keep things rolling. There's only one way to go, just keep going up, and I think our guys are ready to attack spring ball and summer workouts.
Milton during the parade stood at the top of a float with the Peach Bowl defensive MVP and 2018 NFL draft bound Shaquem Griffin.
I mean, we're just kind of embracing the moment, saying, wow, like we really made it to this point. And, you know, I just kind of enjoying that moment with him, knowing that he's moving on to the NFL and he's going to do his thing. So it's just pretty cool being up there with my brother for maybe one last time. So it was pretty neat.
Griffin was not the only one whose last game was the Peach Bowl. President Hitt announced in late October that he would be retiring after 26 years at UCF.
You know, it will be bittersweet, no question about that. But you know, we've got a wonderful group of young men. I have every expectation that they'll compete at a high level in an ongoing way, and I'm going to be their #1 fan out there.
Reporting for Campus Connect, I'm Brianna Sorensen.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it.
The opportunity that I have here is like unmatched. It's one of the best things that I've experienced in my life. And the people I've met here, the relationships that I've formed are things that are going to last a lifetime. Just excitement to be able to go out and play one more time with my teammates, my family, play for my amazing coaches. But it's really just excitement, trying to take advantage of every day that we have together.
Aaliyah is just, you know, she's kind of I hate to say it, but she's kind of the quiet assassin, you know, like she's going to, you know, do the things that nobody expects her to do, and she's going to just be our scorer and our leader, and you know, obviously her pull-up jumper is unbelievable, and she can score at any moment. And but she's not as outspoken and that vocal leader that like KK is, and the energy. But she brings it in terms of how she works.
Just as far as like as a person, my leadership skills, my mentality, when I attack everything, just not on the basketball court, but in life in general. I think I'm a totally different person. I've grown, and that's attributed to our coaches. The coaches that I've had throughout those 4 years have been amazing. A lot of times, like, you'll catch yourself, you know, oh, I don't want to go to practice, or I don't want to go lift, but now that I'm a senior, I realize that all those things are important and are needed to, grow and get better. We have a lot of new people, a lot of underclassmen, just being a leader for them, setting an example, helping them out and helping them learn and grow so that the tradition of this program can continue once I leave. It was an amazing feeling, being able to continue to play, and we did that for our seniors. Of course, you never want to see your last game come about, so for us to have an opportunity to play after the conference tournament was amazing, and it was good for them. But I think it gave us a taste of what we want, and we want to continue to strive for more.
Spending the last 16 seasons as the head coach at UCF, Keitha Adams brings a plethora of coaching experience in her first year at Wichita State. The Oxford, Kansas native has a new challenge presented in front of her, trying to guide a team that finished 5th in the Missouri Valley Conference last year into a new challenge in the American.
We're just working together, but I'm excited. I think they've been very responsive, and I think we're enjoying one another. We're working hard, and also I'm enjoying being around these guys every day, and I think that's important. So they've been great.
One of the challenges of taking on a new team is getting them to adjust to a new system.
We're still in a very much thinking mode where we don't know it yet. I mean, that's the repetition, rep. I could put a play in, and I think they're learning it. And then there's that next phase of understanding what we're really trying to get out of it. I mean, understanding what we're doing it for and why we're doing it. And they're doing a good job of being great listeners and being responsive to it. But we just need more reps. I just think we just need more practice. And the more we practice, the more it's going to become automatic.
Adams' new coaching tactics have been an adjustment for Wichita State's 8 seniors.
We're trying to make sure we do the right things, and as Coach said, it's a learning curve for us right now, even as seniors. So we want to make sure that when she does implement something new, that we go out there and, we work on it, we perfect our craft, and then we understand exactly what we're looking for. That way the second group that comes in, which will involve some of our newbies, that they understand the same thing as well. So we just want to make sure that we're on the same page as upperclassmen, and then to be on the same page with our underclassmen.
One unique trait that Adams has implemented into the team so far is patience.
I think we've definitely learned to be patient, because Coach Adams has been very patient with us as well. With the time that she has put in of, not actually, getting on us and getting in our face when we don't do something right, or something like that. So I think we both learned to be, Coach and the team have learned to be patient and work well with one another.
Adams and her staff signed 6 players during the November signing period, taking the first step into rebuilding a women's basketball program that looks to get back into postseason contention. For Campus Connect, from Wichita State, I'm Grant Cohen.
Knights up a dozen. About to emerge from the halftime locker room. As Masani Kaba in double figures early on has the Knights out ahead of Colby Morgan and the Green Wave. Let's check in courtside with Eric Lopez. He's with head coach Lisa Stockton of Tulane.
All right, Coach, how do you get some offense going here in the second half?
Well, I think one thing is rebounding. We got to keep them off the boards is one, and move the ball around. I feel like we're just not moving the ball around. Our live ball turnovers are killing us, but, we just talked about it. If we can change our turnover situation, I think we can be all right.
How about defense? What do you want to see from your defense here?
Well, again, rebounds. I want them to have one shot and done, and let's go on a fast break from there, but, we just haven't done a very good job of that.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Back to you, Lincoln.
All right, thank you, Eric. For UCF, offense, defense, transition opportunities, it's all executing, of course, through the freshman Kaba.
Well, it was all UCF in the first half. If they were beating them inside, left, and right with Saunders, taking one in there. And then Kaba had 11 points in the middle. The guards were getting 9 assists there, so they were penetrating the middle of that zone, stopping and popping all afternoon.
Colby Morgan does have 9 points, accounting for almost half of the scoring for Tulane. A lot of it's getting done at the free throw line for her, as her shot's been a little off early on.
Well, they're shading her, they're doubling her, they're making sure she doesn't get real comfortable, and so it does make it difficult for her, but I think they need more movement, they need more ball movement, they've got to continue to rebound like Coach said, and they've got to have a sense of urgency here. They're playing a little bit soft.
Once again, glad to have you with us here in Orlando on the American Digital Network. Take a look at the halftime stats, a lot of them will favor Coach Abe. Turnovers were even, but it was what you did with those opportunities as UCF were often not able to capitalize.
Well, their transition game was rolling on a lot of cylinders. They had 2 or 3 great easy transition 3-on-1 looks. And then they were finishing. They shot the ball really well at about 46%, while Tulane struggled in somewhere in the 20s and the mid-20s.
You see the assist to field goal ratio there for the Knights. Again, we've seen great movement of the basketball, dangers from just about anywhere on the court tonight.
Super impressive with what the Knights are doing to get inside that zone. They're not being predictable. They're screening the top of the zone. They're running behind the zone. They're getting it to the high post. They're penetrating it. And there's a lot. Those are all the things that you want a team to do against a zone defense. But Tulane's not out of it here. I mean, Tulane is a gritty team. They're used to winning, and I really look for them to make a little run here early on.
Well, we will note one player that Tulane has been without for a while has been Tanae Thompson. Started the first 11 games of the year. They do expect to get her back after tonight. She will be a welcome shot in the arm, the 5'11" junior guard for the Green Wave, who is giving them about 5 points, 4 rebounds an outing. UCF able to grow its advantage. First 2 points come from Zykia Saunders, and she has been one of the highlights this evening for the black and gold.
That's about 5 or 6 times they've had that same 6-footer. They're just getting in the lane, and once you get in the lane, they should be swarming them, and they're letting them get their rhythm and get their shot off.
Not the opening half minute that Lisa Stockton wanted to see. Another turnover by Tulane here on the road today.
Talk about ball movement. We talk about player movement. Watch the UCF Knights move. Back and forth. They're patient against it.
UCF has not relied on much shooting around the perimeter. They're 1 for 3. Saunders with the lone triple. Battling for the rebound. Finally hauled in by the Green Wave and Harlan Wyatt. Open look in front of the friendlies on the bench. Triple is good for Sierra Cheatham, the freshman from Houston.
Well, that's a nice little stroke, and you could tell when she released that was going in.
They love her smarts, her basketball IQ, and also love her just natural size. At 6 feet, gives her the matchup on the perimeter more often than not.
She just earned her start against Houston, and I don't think she's going anywhere. She's going to stay in that lineup for a while.
Second straight start after coming off the bench, her first 15 games for the Green Wave. And straightaway look, good release, trying to beat the shot clock, and it's an offensive rebound for UCF to reset things.
Well, they need to not allow that to happen. They've got to give them one and done, just like Stockton said at halftime.
Shot clock down to 10. And Gregory could not get to go as UCF will come away empty-handed despite the prolonged possession.
That was a good block out by UCF. And then Wyatt just put her second gear in check, ran that thing, got it down, and ran a little stab hook in there.
So it was a 12-point lead for UCF at the half. Tulane has trimmed it within 9 here early in the third quarter.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially. Schreitenstal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Well, it's been an entertaining start here in January to conference play in the American. As right now a 9-point lead for UCF at home, defending their home court. Take a look back at some of the individuals who stood out this last week in conference play. As we lead things off with the talented newcomer, talking about the play of Thomas and what she has brought to the Bearcats up there in Cincinnati.
Well, she's a lot to handle. She's takes it in, takes it out, and she's a scorer. She thinks about scoring first and passing it second.
One of the new additions to the American this year, and of course, another new addition, though not a freshman, Ranji Bassard. We've seen her a couple times here on the American Digital Network with the newcomers, the Shockers of Wichita State, joining the American this year. And what an addition Keitha Adams' program has been, and Bassard, more often than not, has been the leader, the shot in the arm that they have needed to compete at this level.
Well, she's paid her dues, and it's coming to fruition. She's listened to what the coach said to her, and she's got buy-in. She's tremendous. She's hardworking, good free throw shooter, and she just makes it happen for them.
Take a look at the rest of the honor roll as announced for the American for last week. Representatives for Cincinnati, UConn, USF, SMU, and Temple, after some nice showing for each of those programs this last week. UCF being led by Masani Kaba's 13 points, another 9 points by Saunders.
That was a pretty quick timeout there by Coach A, but I like it. She didn't like what she was seeing. She didn't like the last time that they scored 2 times in a row, so she took a timeout and got her players under control.
Jamisha Paul back in the ball game without the ball at the moment across the way in front of the UCF bench. Now we'll get it back to Jamisha with 10 to shoot.
A little more dribbling than what they had in the first half.
A long 2 off the mark from Saunders, rebound by Kaba. And she'll go down to the hardwood. Let's see if they got a timeout in time or if it'll simply be a turnover back over to Tulane. And this will be a turnover to the Green Wave as Kaba a little gimpy initially here.
Looks like she twisted her ankle a little bit when she came down. She gets it. I think she might have, yep, she stepped on her player's toe right there. Just kind of everted it.
Saunders able to get the ball back here for the black and gold.
You just need to bring some fight. You can't, a loose ball, all the loose balls, if you're on the road, got to go to you. They can't go to the other, can't go to the home team. So I need to see some more fight out of Tulane here.
See what UCF has in mind. Shot clock again back down to 9. Wright finds her way into the paint. And it's back to a double-digit advantage for UCF. Kaba on one bum wheel, still able to get down there in time to prevent the transition bucket.
We talked about Kaba. She loves Kaba because she's such a competitor. She doesn't have a freshman mindset. She has a mindset of a older player, and if you have that as a freshman and you got that length, you have a long career here in the American.
KK Wright able to lead that transition, finding Jamisha Paul for the easy bucket.
Wright doesn't always look real smooth, but she gets it done. I mean, she's a fighter. Look at her fighting for post position down there. She's fighting. Morgan hasn't taken a shot yet for this quarter, so they need to get her on track.
Tulane now 3 of 13 from beyond the arc. UCF has not had to settle for long-range shots very often. KK Wright pours in another pair.
Another elbow jumper, a little bunny shot. They're just giving them wide open, 8-10 footers.
They're pestering Colby Morgan. And Morgan off the mark.
Last couple times, Tulane's taken one pass and then shot it up, and they haven't shifted that rebounding position out. So UCF is coming up with every defensive board.
5th rebound for Kaba a moment there. She and Saunders have combined for 12 rebounds already in this one. Shot clock down to 2. Saunders lost the ball, collected it, got it to the rim in time, but Tulane will hold.
Well, good defense by Tulane, because the last 5 or 6 times they've run the clock all the way down to and had to shoot it before it runs out.
Well, we've reached the midway point of the third quarter. An official timeout. We step aside for 30 seconds. 4:45 to go here in the third. UCF's lead at 15.
Don't miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets at the American Athletic Conference Men's Basketball Championship. All the excitement of tournament basketball starts March 8th and runs to the 11th at the Amway Center in Orlando. For tickets, call the Amway Center box office or visit theamerican.org for more information.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
The American.
Power.
Power. Power.
Power for life.
Take a look into the huddle of UCF. We talked about both these coaches loving the makeup of their team, the character that their student athletes have for these two programs. For UCF, that was highlighted over the Christmas break. Aaliyah Gregory, a senior now, for a third straight year had a toy drive that benefited domestic violence victims. This year alone, over 700 toys contributed. Big props to the men's basketball team and the student government of UCF as well, really buying in over the past couple of years. Over 3 years now, over 1,300 toys have been donated. Such a great cause and mindful of social issues. Gregory and her teammates, I mean, you talk about all the complexities with domestic violence, including trauma bonds, but ultimately, big picture, not just basketball. Gregory and her teammates wanted to make sure they can give back to the community.
Well, give back they do, and that's on behalf of her aunt, so it's close to home. And I love the character of her and her team, you know, just to really go out there and give it their all and keep increasing it every year.
Gregory right now getting a breather on the bench, the senior out of Tampa. A little bit of a homecoming the other day, going back to take on those Bulls.
Well, we talked earlier in the broadcast, we talked about what's it going to take to win this game. And both coaches said it's going to be rebounding. Right now, rebounding edge goes to UCF, 27 rebounds to 16. So that's 11 extra rebounds, and I haven't seen it change here yet in the second half. They're still getting too many offensive boards, so Tulane really has got to focus on just one and done, and they got to pick up the tempo and get some transition buckets here.
But folks, ask yourself, what were you doing as a 20-year-old sophomore in college? Did you ever stop and say, let's start a toy drive to make the holidays special for some youth?
No, but I tell you what, all these women's programs spend a lot of time giving to community services, and we talk about, you know, touching people at in a men's game it's just tougher. Women's game, you can reach the players and get to know them as people, and that's the great thing about the women's game.
Obviously, with plenty of Florida talent for UCF, Coach Abe will point out that a lot of the families really have been dedicated coming out and supporting these Knights in person. As transition the other way, led by Paul. Even numbers as Tulane gets back in time. Paul loses the handle and will be back over to the visitors from New Orleans.
Well, UCF has been lucky that Morgan really her three-point shot has not been on thus far tonight, because she has had 3 or 4 open looks that, you know, she normally makes that she's just not making right now.
Colby, again, always happy to dish and find the open teammate, and that time rewarded by the efforts of the freshman Sierra Cheatham, able to drain the 2.
She's a good-looking player. She just rocks and fires. If she gets it in transition, she's going to pull the trigger.
Cheatham with 5 points, second leading scorer behind Morgan's 9 for Tulane. Saunders thought better of a shot. Extra pass out on the wing. In for closer inspection, but denied. Flat-footed rejection from the 6'2" Harlan Wyatt.
Well, he passed up a couple bunnies, as you call them, and got this one rejected.
I promise you I will work the vocab cribs into my language more.
Bunnies, cribs are all the same.
What's the origin of cribs?
I don't know. I just Ever since I've been probably Bobby Knight, I don't know.
You ever see in the New York Times crossword 5-letter word for layup?
Crib. Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
I was going to throw, maybe just 4 letters. Cava with another rebound.
In bunny shot, or something like that.
Close range.
There
you go.
There you go.
Acronym.
Got it.
Crib's an acronym. All right. That's it for this week's edition of the Lincoln and Ange
spelling contest
podcast. As UCF has been in control of this one, Morgan's going to try to force the issue. A foul will simply lead to an inbounds play coming up.
Yeah, it looks like to me that she's playing a little bit more of the point than she needs to be. They need to get her into a 2-guard position and let someone else like Manu run the show. But Manu's not really taking control of it.
Open look from the wing, able to drain the 3. Again, there's your girl Manu, one of 3 Kaylas on this roster, the sophomore from New Zealand.
Well, this is a very good 3-point shooting team, and you figured sometime here they were going to start hitting them.
She's a 37% shooter this year from beyond the arc. Back to the 12-point difference we had at halftime, 8 minutes into the third quarter. Cava headed back to the free throw line, still the only player in double figures, and I say that KK Wright moments ago joined her with 10.
Look at Cava, she kind of bodied her up, really tried to get a good post position. Didn't make her shot, but I liked her positioning down there where she's not just going to stand in front of the zone, she's going to get her body on the zone.
Mossany with 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals. I say 4 rebounds, 6 rebounds, including 2 on the offensive glass. As Aaliyah Gregory back in.
Gregory just 2 points tonight.
And yet the Knights up by a baker's dozen.
Well, their defense is just, it's everything to them. And I asked her, where did you learn it? Because she's under so many coaches in her life. And she said, that's all me. But, you know, I mean, it is her personality that, you know, she wants them to be very physical on defense. And that's one of her non-negotiables for her players is you got to play hard, you got to play defense.
They haven't needed scoring from Gregory, but she gives them 2 more. Again, number 6 all-time scorer for UCF, still adding to her resume. Oh, nice handles. Just can't get it to go. Ultimately comes down in the arms of Thigpen. The other way, a foot race.
Transition.
KK Wright with a dozen. Timeout, Tulane. You see, they trail by 15, largest deficit here tonight on the road. Knights are looking for their first home win at CFE Arena against Tulane.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
A big save.
a clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right. Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments.
Profanities or other improper actions.
While it's the game.
Be American.
Power.
Power. Power.
Power for life.
We are underway from the American. Don't miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets March 3rd to the 6th. Call the Mohegan Sun Arena or visit us online to purchase tickets today.
17-point lead for UCF here at home today in the American. A little more urgency. Oh, great passing back and forth. Cava just wasn't expecting it. Otherwise, would have had an easy layup. As 47-30 our score here in Orlando. A 17-point lead for the Knights.
I'd like to see Tulane mix it up a little bit. I think they've got a pretty good rhythm against this zone.
Well, it was a nifty reverse. It didn't go, and while every Tulane player was simply frozen looking, Kayla Thigpen went up and got the offensive rebound for UCF.
I wonder if Thigpen does any high jumping in the track season, because it looks like her vertical's quite high.
As a kid, if her parents put the cookies at the top of the pantry, those cookies never had a chance.
Exactly.
One more for Thigpen this year. Came into today shooting 14 of 20 from the charity stripe.
She does a lot of things that don't go noticed.
Another offensive rebound for Thigpen and another foul by Tulane.
Well, I've said it before, but you're on the road, you really can't have that happen. You got to. If it happens once or twice, okay, but that's just been happening way too much tonight.
Lisa Stockton looking on with Alan Fry and her assistants. No assistant on her staff has been with her fewer than 6 years. Alan Fry's been with her for a dozen. Great consistency both these coaches have put together. A great crew around them for X's and O's and recruiting.
Last shot here of the quarter.
Build on a 17-point lead, just wouldn't fall. And that will do it for the first 10 minutes of the second half. Largest discrepancy tonight. UCF trying to improve to 4-2 in conference play and continue to rise in the American.
$7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
When it comes to learning at Tulane University, there are no boundaries. Architects and scientists in New Orleans, doctors and public health experts in Africa, history and language scholars in Latin America, legal students and professors in Europe, business students in Asia. Tulaneans are all over the globe, and the world is their oyster. We've got that, and a lot more, right here at Tulane University.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it.
Well, UCF will take a 17-point lead into the fourth quarter. They're only shooting 45%, but that's good enough against a Tulane team that's been cold, shooting 27%. Outside in Orlando, 51 degrees tonight. As again, Florida has been for the most part immune to the chilly temperatures around the country. Let's check back in courtside before the start of the fourth quarter with Eric Lopez.
Well, if you look at the UCF bench, you might see a familiar face, and that's, of course, one of the all-time greats, Nikisha Sales, who's in her second season as an assistant coach at UCF, of course, a national champion, All-American at UConn, an 8-time WNBA All-Star. She's lived in Orlando for 14 years, and then when this UCF coaching staff came in last year, she knew some of the people. They reached out to see if she'd be interested in coaching, and she came on board, and she's been a great influence. Some of the players have told me she hasn't lost her fire. She won't give them an inch when they play one-on-one in practice and help them play. What a great influence, though. They're marvel at having Nikisha Sales around, one of the all-time greats, Lincoln.
Yeah, Eric, absolutely. They would love if they could just put a UCF uniform on now Coach Sales. She's the only member of Coach Abe's staff that did not play for Coach Abe, but you'll understand that hire.
Absolutely, and we talked about it on a conference call that she can't even actually put her up against her team because they can't win. So, but yeah, what a great hire. And, you know, it's great to give former WNBA players opportunities. And I don't think enough of them get them because they've had basketball around them their whole life.
There you see the trio of assistants for Coach Abe. Tani Valerio played for her at Missouri State.
Well, that series right there, Tulane made an adjustment, put Morgan in at the high post, so she actually got a pretty good touch. She's only 2 of 12 all night tonight, but she got to the line and got up on the board.
Oh, this time Tulane trying to be opportunistic. Colby Morgan still not giving up with almost a full quarter to go here on the road.
Yeah, I think a little bit of frustration has to set in. They don't have anyone in double figures, so not a lot of offensive output. Of course, that's what UCF hangs its hat on, is the fact that they try to keep people under 50 points a game.
It's been a good time of year to cheer on the Knights' various programs. Obviously, Scott Frost capped off that undefeated run with the UCF football team with the Peach Bowl victory in Atlanta against Auburn. More recently, the cheer team competed at the national level, came up just short. But you saw Coach Todd Dagenais from volleyball and a variety of other coaches in this athletic department showing their support for various sports, a tight community. I'm sure they bump into each other at the beach fairly often.
Yes, while they're near the palm trees.
Gregory can't shake the defenders, instead dishes it to Saunders. Ball won't go. Another offensive rebound almost there, but slipped out of the arms of Schuler.
That's a good fight right there on Tulane's part.
They have the only 2 points here in this opening minute of the fourth quarter.
See, they're shifting her into the high post so she can have some different looks.
Looking for a closer look, got fouled. 2 free throws now on the horizon here for Kayla.
Yeah, I think Manu is a good scorer for them. That's kind of a little one-handed stab shot, but she's a good scorer. I just think she has to become a little better leader, and that's what Coach has been talking about, trying to find their identity. You know, Vorpal was such a feisty little leader for them, and with Vorpal and Morgan as the 1-2 punch, I'm sure that's got to be difficult for Morgan in her final season to not have her in that backcourt.
Manu Rungi really improving her assist-to-turnover ratio coming into this season, knowing that she would be seeing more time with the graduation of Vorpal. Tulane lost about 11 points per ball game with that graduation, and still looking for an answer. Full press. And able to dribble through it. KK Wright. And UCF shooting 44% in this ball game. Have led essentially the entire way. Saunders finds a little space on the wing. And the basketball.
They haven't pulled the trigger at three-point range, I don't think, much, once or twice. And every time they shoot one of these little 6-8 foot jumpers, they've got 2 or 3 hands on it. So every time they're going after that board.
UCF again has not needed to settle for. They're 1 for 4 from beyond the arc. Tulane 4 of 15. UCF is out rebounding the Green Wave 34-20.
Well, 4 of 15 for Tulane is normal. That's what they do. They shoot the 3, but they're not shooting it very well here.
And a foul trying to hold back Kaba as the whistle against Tulane. As Harlan Wyatt picks up the whistle.
With the foul. Nice ball underneath.
UCF, if they can pick up the win here, improve to 4-2 and welcome SMU on Saturday. We'll have that game back here at CFE Arena on the American Digital Network. Travis Mays' Mustangs trying to bounce back from a tough trip yesterday to Wichita. Kaba inside, nothing tough about that.
Well, that's excellent penetration and a nice little dish inside.
She has scored 10 or more points in 6 of her last 9 ball games now.
I really like the look of Wright and Saunders together. That's a really nice looking backcourt.
Again, Masani Kaba averaging 8 points in this her freshman campaign. That shot comes up short. Gregory with the rebound. Eyes up ahead. Just 2-on-2. Tulane gets numbers back. Again, UCF not settling for a bad shot early. Not the tallest player in the area, but a rebound to Saunders. Gives it back over. Steal from Cruikshank. Uncontested the other way, and the layup good for Kayla Anderson.
That's one of the few transition buckets they've gotten. Good defensive effort that time. Heads up play.
Able to force the turnover and turn it into a pair of points. 49-36, the UCF advantage.
Tulane's still having to fight for every defensive board because UCF's all over it.
Tulane getting hands and faces now on UCF shots.
That's a freshman, Anderson. You know, you talk about to a freshman, you don't want to put the ball over your head, because what does it mean when you put the ball over your head? You're just a passer. You're not going to be a shooter, or you're going to be probably a scorer because it's way up here. So that's a freshman error.
With 6:38 to go here in regulation, Tulane trailing by 13 as Lisa Stockton calls a timeout. I mentioned on Saturday we'll be right back here in Orlando for SMU and UCF. You look at the rest of the schedule, as we'll also see Travis Mays' squad host Cincinnati. Our first chance to see the Bearcats up close and in person here on ADN. Tulsa, Wichita State, ECU, and Houston all making appearances here in the next couple of weeks.
I think if Coach Abe had to script this battle, this is the battle she would script. Keeping Tulane to 36 points in the fourth quarter, maintaining control of the tempo, getting quality shots, being physical, forcing their Morgan to have one of her, not one of her better nights, I would say. And it's, I'm nothing against Morgan. She can't do it all every single time, but I think they've done a good job of keeping her off kilter.
They've held 4 of their last 6 opponents to fewer than 56 points, and you can say 5 of their last 8 as well, and it looks like Tulane will be held short of that unless they can catch fire here down the stretch. We talked about UCF's last 2 games have been their only 2 losses in conference. They lose to UConn, the #1 team in the nation. UConn with a great win on the road out of conference in Austin back on Monday against #9 Longhorns. And then Coach Abe will tell you she thought they probably played better against UConn than they did against USF, and she says part of that was last year they went to USF and beat the Bulls in Tampa, and that was still fresh on the minds of a lot of those Bulls who came out full speed.
Well, first year, she caught them off guard, and, in your first year, your kids are playing at lights out, and they're buying into everything you're telling them. Second year, it's a little different because people now know how you play. And it's not going to be as easy the second year to go steal one like that, certainly with a well-coached USF team at their place. So Gregory had an outstanding game with over 26 points that game. And I think your top-tier players have to play excellent in the big games.
Once again, Lincoln Rose, Angela Beck, Eric Lopez, thrilled to be with you here on the American Digital Network. Timeout called a moment ago by Tulane, trailing by 13. They've been playing catch-up most of this ball game, trailing UCF.
Yeah, I think Tulane's got to be scratching their head a little bit. 8 returning lettermen. I know they have 4 newcomers. They've lost 2 of their starters, but with 3 starters back, I really think she was hoping for a little bit more.
You see, again, the championships on the horizon that we will have exclusively here on the American Digital Network. Get started with swimming and diving, and then before the summer comes around, back to Florida for some baseball. So Knights basketball up 49-36. Tulane's done a little bit better job defensively. That time, though, will be whistled for the foul here.
Tulane foul #1. Kayla Anderson.
Both coaches, I think, are doing a really good job of establishing how they want the game played. I think the challenge that everyone in the American has right now is to get more people to step up. Several teams don't have 4 players in double figures. I guess that's probably, it's a UConn. UConn has 4 players. USF probably has about 3.5. And it's hard to get 4 players to say, hey, I know what my job is and I know what I got to do. But 36 points, you got to get someone else to put it up and score. And if Morgan's not having a good night, someone else has to shine.
Well, and Lisa Stockton yesterday recalled that both of last year's games went down to the wire. This year, rebounding would be the key. And right now, UCF 38-21 with the advantage on the boards over Coach Stockton's Green Wave.
There's a much-needed offensive board, and then they turn it over.
Gregory. And a little slow motion drive to the hole.
Yeah, slow motion, and then the freshman Anderson doesn't take her arm off, as I say. You don't ever give a free layup in a basketball game. And she doesn't have any fouls, so she could just give a foul there and make her earn it. UCF likes people to play kind of ugly, though, because they're so physical. They don't care how it looks. They just want to win. And so that's why there's bodies all over the floor, and every rebound, somebody's body checking somebody.
Straight away, and Saunders now with 11 points, already with 10 boards. That's her first double-double here with UCF. Becomes the third night in double-figure scoring. A tight rotation here for the Knights. They've just gone with 7 this evening.
Yeah, she's really liking Saunders, and so am I. I think she's really coming into her own. And just the way she's passing the ball and shooting it, she looks pretty amazing tonight.
So KK Wright looking over to that bench for some instructions. Part of it will be nothing early in the clock. They'll clamp down on KK, able to pass out of it to Saunders, who hit the 2 a moment ago. Back into Kaba, stripped away by Morgan. No surprise there, as she'll be the last to give up.
Great defensive effort by Morgan.
Other way with the backup freshman point guard, Kayla Anderson, who directs traffic. Inside from Morgan, off the mark. Weak side putback. Free throws coming up for Tulane. Going to the line will be Madison Wells. Again, Colby Morgan with 11 points, still the only Tulane player in double figures scoring. They've gone with a 9-player rotation here today on the road.
I like Lisa Stockton. She's fighting, coaching her heart out on her bench, just really, trying to encourage the kids to keep fighting.
Wells is 6 of 9 this year from the free throw line, and now I'll let you do the math, 7 of 10. As one more for Wells here coming up. Mentioned she was the individual, now a sophomore, displaced by Hurricane Katrina. Family moved to Florida.
A couple good-looking free throws by her.
She's giving them about 9 minutes a ball game. Her 16th game off the bench now. Not a lot of opportunities to get to the line. Saunders, already a double-double. Looking for that triple-double if she can get some dimes here late, but Kaba called for footsteps.
Coach Stockton talked about Colby Morgan, and Colby Morgan playing both ends of the floor. That was Colby Morgan again, patting that ball around. So she's the first one down on defense and working hard to try to steal.
Saunders has 5 assists this evening to go with a double-double. And how about a potential three-point opportunity here late for Tulane, as Kayla Cruikshank, the native of Montreal, a senior who Lisa Stockton discovered several years back when she was playing for a Canadian AAU team that was traveling through the States.
That was a big step through left-handed shot by Cruikshank. She's saying, Coach, you need to get me in a little sooner. I got it.
The senior giving Tulane about 2 points a night and about 12 minutes per contest.
She's a little lefty. That's no wonder she was driving that way.
Morgan not backing down, and they're going to call a walk. Colby Morgan forces KK Wright to turn it over.
So the intensity I'm seeing from Tulane here is what we were kind of looking for earlier in the evening. It's kind of a wonder why these kids are just waiting until 3:49 to fire it up, but they've got that in them.
Coach Abe knows it's not over yet. 3:49 for a Tulane comeback on the road in Orlando.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments.
Profanities or other improper actions.
While at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Welcome back inside CFE Arena. A lot of good things happening these days on the campus of UCF. And that includes women's basketball, including tonight here at home, a 13-point lead over Tulane. Tulane still looking for every loose ball they can get their hands on. And a nice trap, and forcing the turnover, or pardon me, the dual possession is Colby Morgan. Arrow's going to keep it on this end.
I have to say, Coach will probably show them film from Tulane from this game, and she'll be like, okay, see how we played in these last two series? That's what we need to be doing every series. There's a quick steal.
Again, it's a Tulane team here battling through the final few minutes, trying to make this one interesting. Again, they will get Tanae Thompson back in the rotation, likely in their next outing this weekend. As Tulane on the horizon has Tulsa and ECU at home. As you see Coach Abe looking on.
So Saunders has a big night. Picks up 11 rebounds as a guard. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, her highest with UCF was 9. She had 10 at Albany before, so it is a career high on the boards for a talented fifth-year senior in Saunders. I'm going to say that ball was deflected in the backcourt. Wright goes right to the rim and just can't get it to climb up and over.
Yeah, they bobbled a few cribs here.
13-point deficit for Tulane to overcome. 3 minutes to work with. Morgan looking for a late three-pointer, and Kaba with another rebound. The 7th for the freshman.
Yeah, the lid's been on it for Morgan here from three-point. 1 of 8. She's had a lot of good looks where really they did find her a couple times and she just didn't make them.
Mentioned it's just a 7-player rotation tonight for UCF. They are all rebounding. And that one, bank shot able to fall through. Good look from Nyla Schuler.
That's the sweet spot.
Schuler, the glue on this team, according to her head coach. Graduated in August, now a master's student.
3-time state champion.
And that one will fall. Tulane staying in it here late, within a dozen. If UCF can take more time off the clock and add some points.
Spreading it out.
And they're going to call a footstep. Just slid to her left, Schuler, before pulling the trigger on that one. And it's another late turnover for the Knights before they ever get a shot off. That to the benefit of Tulane. Oh, great dish. Cheatham just couldn't handle it.
I don't think she expected it. Just you gotta play heads up.
Otherwise, we could be talking about a 10-point ball game.
Believe me, Coach Stockton knows they're right on the verge. 144, plenty of time to get it done. Their defense has really turned on in the last 5 minutes. I'm not sure why they waited so long, but it's there. It's still a game. Anything can happen, especially the way they hit the threes. And I don't care what Colby Morgan did till now. She's capable of dialing up 10 points in a minute.
Just a 30-second timeout taken by Lisa Stockton. Coach Stockton over 500 wins in her career, including 488 in 24 seasons at Tulane. Mentioned they were ousted in the conference tournament by this UCF program last year in the first round. That was the first win by UCF since joining the conference in the conference tournament. They would go on to fall in the semifinals. Both would have nice runs in the WNIT. American well represented last year in the WNIT. You throw SMU in there as well.
The will to win is highly underrated, and I think at that point the UCF Knights had that will. First year, never done it. You know, that was exciting, and I know it was a heartbreaker for Tulane.
So here's UCF, a 12-point lead, looking to improve to 4-2. And mind you, if you're not familiar with UCF, they are without two very talented players, Fifi Indoor, as you see the three-pointer go for Cruikshank, the Canadian, as well as Tolu Omokore, also out for the year. And yet no excuses being made, as Coach Abe just looking for the next players to step up in their place. That means shuffling some guards into the post with that lack of size.
Well, with that three-point shot, Tulane just made it a 9-point game. Right out of the corner. Nice shot by the freshman.
KK Wright at the line.
And a moment later, Wright is at the line shooting a pair. 70% free throw shooter this year. KK tonight, 12 points, second leading scorer on the team this evening. There's her 13th to go with 7 assists, 3 rebounds, and 4 steals. She was 0 for 3 from the charity stripe before that one. Loose ball, Tulane's ball.
Out of bounds, Tulane ball.
So who can finish here in the final minute 19?
A little sense of urgency here.
Trying to pull it back with an 8, and free throws coming up here for the Green Wave in this comeback effort. So clock is stopped. A chance to put points on the board. Kayla Cruikshank has made just 7 of her 14 free throws so far coming into tonight. And you do see contact on the hand from Kaba.
I like the minutes Cruikshank has given. She's got a nice little lefty, shot the one out the corner a minute ago, and she's earning her minutes.
I don't think she knew she was a sub 500 free throw shooter before that last one. Now she's back to 500. There you go. It's math, people. You're not going to beat math. Loose ball, kept it in play, and then they call it travel on the rollover.
I mean, Stockton's got them in this game.
And when you possess that ball, it's not just about moving your feet, but if you're prone on the court, there is literally no wiggle room.
The bodies start flailing now. If these bodies would have been flailing earlier, this would have been a little tighter.
And here comes the angry wave.
I'm not sure what they did to give him that wake-up call.
Timeout called, 59.1 seconds still to play. And this, all of a sudden, is a 2-possession ball game. A 6-point deficit still remains for Tulane.
It's almost like they're rocking and fire from 3. They don't have any reason to worry about it. You know, are they going to make it or miss it? They're just firing it up. And they seem to be a lot looser now. They've hit their last 3 threes by just rocking and firing by 3 different players.
Tulane was outscored in the opening quarter 17-8, and they've been playing catch-up ever since. But here in the fourth, they've scored more points than either team had in any quarter. They've outscored the Knights 20-9, but still have not been able to erase the deficit, trailing 56-50.
Well, 56-50 with 59 seconds left. It's just a 2-possession game, the way they're shooting a 3. So they just need to get a turnover here. Crank up the 3, and it's a ball game.
The Green Wave has not led. In fact, we haven't even been tied in this ball game after tip-off when it was 0-0.
I think if I'm Tulane, if I lose this, I'm going to be disappointed I didn't give it what they've been given at the last 6 minutes.
UCF led by as many as 17 at one point when it was 53-36. Since then, it's a 14-3 run.
Right now it's exposing UCF's inability to break a press because they've had a lot of difficulty.
And they strip it right back. Free throws coming up. The clock stopped again for Tulane to put points on the board. A chance to pull it within 4.
Well, that's the freshman, or the sophomore, Manu, ripping it out of her hands and getting to the rim.
Kayla Manu Idirangi, 20 of 22 from the free throw line coming into today. A couple of big ones here. She's got 11 points, tied for the team high. Still looking for the 12th. That's her first miss, now 2 for 3 tonight.
Coach, I think Coach Abe's in a little bit of shock, like what the heck just happened? This is a different team that's been playing for 3 quarters.
Makes 1 of 2. And I think UCF got the timeout.
Anytime you have a fire like Coach Stockton has, she's a fiery coach. She's not a coach she's going to get fired up every single game. You got to get fired up to play for her. And that's what they've done.
So with that free throw, 12 points for the sophomore. Colby Morgan with 11, another 8 points from Cheatham.
Well, what Tulane's just got to do is do the same thing they've been doing. Either try to get a steal here on the inbounds or get a quick foul and get it back down and fire up another 3.
You look at some of the scoring from beyond the arc here tonight, most recently favoring Tulane. Colby Morgan's just 1 of 9 from downtown. We've seen 3 triples from, again, the sophomore Manu, and then Cheatham has a couple as well.
Cruikshank shot 1 out of there, and she's been shooting about 41% this year, so she's a good shooter. She just isn't getting that many minutes, and but she seems to be pretty productive when she's in there.
Tulane's up their percentage, making a third, 7 of 21. Again, we've still only seen UCF attempt 4 3-pointers tonight, 1 for 4. UCF just needs to be able to protect the basketball, as Tulane believes every ball should be theirs.
It's the first time I've seen them in a man. Just switching all screens now.
Able to get it in. Saunders. Off the side of the iron, and it's going to be another tie-up as both Morgan and Schuler went up for it. And possession arrow does favor UCF this time.
They're going to need to get a foul here. If they don't get a steal, they can't let them run off 30 seconds. It's a two-possession game. Need to get a steal or a foul.
And the Knights were not looking to go to the rim. They wanted to take that clock down. So UCF, if they can make their free throws, perhaps can close out this ball game. KK Wright, 70% free throw shooter coming into this evening. As a team, the Knights are 7 of 15. Compare that to Tulane, 14 of 17 this evening.
This hasn't been a good quarter for UCF, but I'll give it to Tulane for getting them uncomfortable and upping their game.
Both teams are in the bonus from here on out. Two-score ball game.
You got to fire it up.
Looking for contact. Got her own miss briefly, slips away back over to UCF. Tulane was looking for the 2, trying to pull it within 4.
As well as they shoot the 3, I mean, I just say go for it. Their 3s are almost effective as their 2s.
And they're going to mop up. Both teams will take advantage and talk things over before the final 25-plus seconds. And they're going to confirm to see who touched it last. Obviously, possession this late in the ball game, and a 6-point affair is so important.
Well, they've done a good job of limiting Morgan because Morgan has been not a factor here in the second half.
Right now, they say Tulane touched it last before the review. Off the knee. We don't see if it goes off the foot of Schuler or not.
It looks like it might have gone off the foot of Schuler. I'm going to go with off the foot of Schuler.
They're going to have to see actual evidence of it. Not sure what angles they'll have. Obviously, if they can't tell, they'll stay with the initial call that it goes to UCF.
I'm sure we have 3 or 4 angles on this read.
Watch number 12 in white.
And then right there.
Yep.
No, that's not a good angle.
Yeah.
The only angle would be that under basket angle to see it, but
if they see what we see, this ball will belong to the Knights, as they'll have no choice but to stay with the initial call. Aaliyah Gregory, along with her teammates, hoping to hang on and improve to 4-2 in conference after dropping their last 2 matchups, understandably, against a couple of top 25 opponents. Tulane trying to get back on track after a slow start.
well, this hasn't been as close as it looks like on paper. The whole first 3 quarters, it was pretty much all UCF, but with a total team defensive effort, scrappiness, a tenaciousness, rebounding like they're capable, Tulane came back and gave us a game here in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, ever since scoring the first 2 points of the game, UCF has had the lead here in this ball game. At one point, as many as 17 points to their favor. What they do is they'll have 2 officials look at it. Then a head official will be joined by the 3rd official to get a second vantage point. And based on the replays we saw, there was nothing to confirm that UCF had actually touched it last, which leads you to believe it'll be the Knights basketball. As again, you see the top assistant Alan Fry there. He's great with the X's and O's. Assistant coach Dosha Woods brings some great energy with this Tulane team. And then you've got Beth Dunkenberger, her 6th year, former head coach in her own right on Lisa Stockton's staff.
Yeah, luckily Tulane has made their 3-pointers down the stretch. They probably hit, 3 or 4 in that last closing quarter, which really made a difference and closed the gap.
Tulane still outscoring UCF this quarter, 21-10. And yet still find themselves trailing by 6 with 25.5 to go. Review just now starting to wrap up.
I guess it was a lot closer than we thought. I'm going to say Tulane ball.
And again, they're not allowed to say something was more likely than not. You have to see confirmation, and there it is off the right foot of Schuler, and that would be the angle that gives this ball back over to Tulane.
I told you I was an official.
We were sitting on it the whole time.
Yes, I love it when I call it at home.
That is the definition of visual confirmation.
Oh.
And they almost give it away. It's going to stay here with Tulane. A 2-score deficit for the Green Wave.
I like it when I see a guard-on-guard screen on this situation. Try to get a guard-on-guard or a staggered screen so you can get your shooter a shot. Right there.
Needs some urgency. Morgan, long 3. We'll call it a pass. And they're going to say that was out of bounds.
That was un-Morgan-esque. Is there a word like that?
There is now. It ultimately had to force the shot. And despite the second bite at the apple, Tulane comes away empty-handed, and now Saunders will go to the free throw line. Again, a career night for Zykeer Saunders.
It's good to reward a player that grabs 11 boards in a game, and she's a guard and has had total control of her game all game. So, and she's a senior.
The Atlanta native trying to put this one away. 1 free throw would make it a 3-possession lead. Saunders still stuck on 11 points. Kaba had 16 tonight. KK Wright with 14. Saunders with a double-double has added 12 rebounds. Kaba had 7 as well. And they all have had 3 or more steals. And an offensive rebound will wind up with Jamisha Paul with 13.8 to go here.
That's kind of the story of the night. UCF controlling the rebounds, hitting the offensive glass all game, giving themselves second opportunities.
So UCF just missed both free throws to keep it a two-possession ball game, and Tulane could not track down the loose ball, and there's your three-possession lead with a little over 13 seconds to go.
Although I think that Coach Stockton will be happy with how these guys came back, I don't think she's going to be that happy with how they performed.
Final seconds ticking down here in Orlando. And throwing it away. UCF is going to win this one, improve to 12-7 overall. More importantly, 4-2 in the American after being picked in the preseason to finish fourth, living up to expectations. Their only losses to UConn and USF so far. The Knights victorious for the first time in program history on their own home court here at CFB Arena against Lisa Stockton's Tulane Green Wave. We step aside, an 8-point win for UCF. When we come back, Eric will have a chance to catch up with victorious Coach Abe and one of her standout Knights from tonight.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
We are underway from the American.
Don't miss the chance to see your team cut down the nets March 3rd to the 6th. Call the Mohegan Sun Arena or visit us online to purchase tickets today.
UCF hangs on for the 8-point win officially. Of course, the standout freshman Masani Kaba, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, but the night belongs to Zakira Saunders and the Knights. Coach Abe victorious now for the 4th time in 6 games in conference play. She's with Eric.
Well, Coach, it's never easy when UCF and Tulane play. They made a run at you at the end, but you got the big defensive stops and rebounds to pull this win out. How were you able to hold on and get the win?
Yeah, well, you said it, defense, and just, you know, we did a good job of subbing people in and out, and we stayed out of foul trouble. That's huge for us because if we're in foul trouble, our bench is really small, and so we just did a good job, and we controlled Kobe. I mean, I don't know how many points she ended with, but that's huge for us.
Zakiya Saunders, I mean, you've talked about her since she arrived here. Her first double-double was a UCF Knight, career-high 12 rebounds for her, and got some really big loose balls for you down the stretch. Talk about her game there, rising to the occasion there when you needed her.
Yeah, and we had a nice little chat at halftime, like we can't let up, and Z's been with us for 5 years now and been to the NCAA tournament 3 times, so she knows what big games are, and we have never beat Tulane here at home, ever. This is the first time that we've ever beat Tulane here at home, so that was a big win for us. They're a great team, and they're very well coached.
How do you take this game now to your next game against SMU? They're going to be back home here and keep that intensity that you want from your team.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Z and KK and Aaliyah and I. Those are the 4 that have to come ready to go every single game and be focused every single game and play tough and, you know, play together. None of our games are ever pretty, but they're wins, so that's what's important.
Well, Coach, enjoy this one. Congratulations, and good luck against SMU on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Victorious Coach Abe here, victorious. We're going to see if we can bring out Zakiya Saunders. She's coming here. Congratulations, Zakiya, come in here, career high in rebounds, another double-double. Talk about this win, a hard-fought win against Tulane.
You know, we came back from 2 losses, and we just wanted to come out and play really hard and, you know, do what we have to do.
What was the message from the coaches after the disappointment against USF? It seems like you guys were all aggressive as a team to crash the boards, yourself included, a career high. What was the message going into this game?
You know, just to play harder as a whole and stick together, play hard, dive on loose balls, and all the little things that mattered.
Now how do you build this now to your next game against SMU? What do you want to take away and tell your players here to get ready for a tough SMU team on Saturday?
You know, just stay focused, keep playing hard, and then we'll figure out what our game plan is when it comes time to it.
Well, congratulations on this great performance, and good luck rest of the way.
Thank you.
The victorious Zakiya Saunders, Lincoln, very happy group to get a win here as they get ready now for SMU on Saturday.
Thank you, Eric. Z finishes with 11 points, the career high, 12 rebounds, including 6 on the offensive glass, 3 steals, and 5 assists. Coach A mentioned that she's had her now all 5 years. Of course, that alludes to her first 3 seasons at Albany with Coach Abe, and now these last 2 years with the Knights. American Digital Network back with you on Saturday. UCF will host SMU for another American clash, but tonight it goes the way of the Knights. 59-51 your final. For Coach Angela Beck, Eric Lopez, and our entire hardworking AD and crew, I'm Lincoln Rose. The Knights will enjoy this one. The 7-player rotation gets it done. They'll rest those legs. Be back in action on Saturday. We'll see you in Orlando here on ADN.